Hi guys and welcome to the channel. This week on Brooker Ceramics we've been making some ceramic mugs. We're getting really close to about 1,000 subscribers now, so if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the channel. So what we're going to do is take a look at some of these mugs and how I made one over the course of 3 days. Throwing ceramic mugs takes a bit of time. You've got to create the base, you've got to let it dry out, got to let it hard, trim it up and attach the handle. So there's quite a few steps and I've documented all of these along the way. So let's look at that, shall we? So just like with every project, I begin by sketching out what I want to draw. You can see some sketches from my previous throwing sessions. I find it good to kind of capture the size as well as how much clay I used. And this allows me to then come back to it later and replicate the same thing. So we're going to have, a very simple basic shape. And potentially a slight foot on it. And then I quite like these large loopy handles, something like that. And we're looking for something around 5 centimeters by 7. And we're going to use 400 grams of stoneware clay. Cool. So let's take a look at that. So this week we're looking at a series of mugs, and what I'm going to do, like with every project, is set up the wheel and stick the back to the wheel so that I can lift the mugs off without having to pick them up and warping the shape. So I'm going to pull you in, you can have a look at how I set up the wheel, and then we'll begin throwing. Okay, so you can see how I've got a little bit of clay already here from the last time I threw. So all I'm going to do is re-add the grooves into the clay and then place the bat on top. So that's pretty centre. Now I'm going to push the clay down evenly all the way around so that it sticks really nicely to the wheel. Now that the wheel is nice and damp, I've got out my pre-weighed clay and I'm going to throw it onto the bat and then I'll begin centering it. Now I've got the ball spinning roughly centrally on the bat. I'm going to start now coning and centering the clay. I do this so that all the clay particles are facing in the same direction and that the ball of clay is spinning perfectly in the center of the wheel and it's not wobbling. So again, I'm going to zoom you in, let's take a look at that and then we'll move on to the next step. So now I've got the clay nice and centered. If I run my finger over it, it doesn't bounce or wobble. What I've done is I've created an undercut here. I found that this is quite useful because if the clay body went straight down onto the wheel, when I begin to pinch it later, you end up with this big flared base and wasting quite a bit of clay. So I actually like to kind of tuck my hands under slightly during this stage so that when I come to pull it later, I don't end up with as much of a skirt at the bottom of the bowl. So the next step is I'm going to take my finger and thumb and I'm going to push it down into the clay till I'm about 1 centimetre from the bottom. Once I've got the desired depth, I'll then angle my thumb at a right angle and push the clay out slightly to around kind of 3 to 5 centimetres. What I'm looking for is a nice flat base and almost a right angle to the wall. So again, I'll zoom you in, we'll take a look at that and then we'll move on to the next bit. So when I feel I'm roughly 1 centimetre from the bottom, I'm going to now bring in this pin here and just measure the depth. So I place it in, it should stand up on its own, and I'm looking for 1 centimetre, so you can see there that that's the perfect depth. Next I'm going to take my thumb and push the wall out, and this should give me the base of the mug. So around about there. It's really important to compress the base so that the base is nice and strong and just create that nice sharp right angle. The clay is wobbling ever so slightly, so I'm going to come in and correct for that now. So it's spinning nice and centrally and we've got the base of our mug. So next I'm going to lock my hands together, pinching the walls and slowly lifting it up, and that will create that mug shape. Now I've got the desired height, I'm going to take a metal kidney, place it on the side and push the clay into the kidney, and this will remove the excess slit. Finally now, just removing the foot. As you can see, there isn't much excess to remove now because I had that nice undercut at the start. Now I want to pinch the rim and compress the top, and this will make it nice and even. You can see now the rim is splayed out slightly, so I'm going to come in and trim it up. The final stage now is just removing the excess slip from inside of the mug. So once I'm happy with that, I'll underscore the mug at the base like so. And then I'll set it aside for 24 hours to dry. So it's a day later now, and what we're going to be doing is making the handles for our mugs. We'll allow them to dry out for another day, and then both the mug body and the handles will be a similar consistency and ready to attach. So for this, you'll need a ball of clay, some kind of cylinder object, and then a bucket of water. Begin with a wet hand and pinch the clay so that you're pinching it consistently with the same amount of pressure at the top all the way down to the bottom. This will continue to make the clay extrude, and you should end up with these long clay noodle-like objects. Once you've got them to a desired thickness, they're then ready to drape over the cylinder and pinch off. So we drape the clay handle over the cylinder like so, and then just pinch it off. I'm going to make sure that it's got good contact and it's even all the way across. So you can see here I've made a variety of different handles that I can now attach to the mug bodies. So what we'll do is we'll come back in a day's time and they'll both be dried out perfectly, and we can look at attaching them together. Later, and the mug is now leather hard and ready to be trimmed. What I've done is I've prepared a chuck, which is just a hollow blob of clay really, that I've attached to the wheel and sealed it. And this will allow me to place the mug on top, increasing the surface area, helping the mug stick to the wheel more effectively. If I didn't have the chuck, the mug is likely to wobble, or the wheel could actually throw it off if it was spinning fast. So I've prepared this. This is also ready and leather hard, and now I can place the mug on top and begin to try and get it to spin nice and centrally, and finally beginning to trim it. So let's take a look. So what I do is I place the bat on top and just give it a little tap, and that creates even pressure, pushing the mug onto the chuck. It's slightly lower this side than this side, so I'll place the wooden bat on top and just lightly tap on the side I want to tilt the mug. That's fine. One last tap and it's ready to trim. Placing the little spinner on the top, this will allow me to place downward pressure onto the mug so that it wobbles less. And finally, just trimming up the foot and the base. So now that the the mug is spinning quite centrally, I'm going to come in and trim up the sides with this larger piece now. Next, I want to trim the top so it's nice and flat. And that's ready to set aside. Just wiping down the lip now to make it nice and clean. Now that's ready to be set aside and have the handle attached shortly. Another day later, and it's time to start attaching handles to mugs. So for this, you're going to need some kind of wooden tool, a brush with some slip-on, a little needle to score out the grooves, and a fettle will really help. So I'm going to pull you in and we're going to take. So I've got my handles here to choose from. We're going to go for this one here, and I'm just going to tidy up the edges by just cutting off the excess bits. Next, we're going to prepare the mug body. So start creating in grooves like so. And then applying a little bit of slip to it. Next, we're going to press the handle into the mug body, bracing it from behind so that we don't warp or misshape it. Do the same with the other side. So we got good contact, and then just slightly adjust the handle shape. Next, we're going to come in with our tool and just tidy up all the edges. Before straightening it up. Finally, just going to come in with the fettle and tidy up all the joins. And there we are. And here's the final piece. So what do you guys think? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment in the section below if you found this useful. As you know, I'm still learning a lot as I go through this process of creating ceramics. So any tips or tricks to help me improve is also greatly appreciated. So I hope you enjoyed and look forward to seeing you in the next one.